So the other day I was so bored that I decided to Google, and Google in its typical way decided to autocomplete my sentence. But here's what I found interesting. Why is boredom so good for you? Can boredom actually be good for you? Can feeling bored have any good consequences? And this is what intrigued me, and so I decided to dive deeper. Boredom is essentially not having enough interest in any of the available options. And what do we generally do when we don't like a particular option? We move on to the next one. And guess what we have in a never-ending supply these days? Options. So if we don't like a movie, we move on to the next movie. If we don't like the food that we've ordered, we move on to the next one in the app. What this does is that it makes us feel bored with the available options, makes us more anxious about the next option, and then we feel bored again with the next option. One way to break this chain is to stop passively entertaining ourselves with the available options. Research has it that being bored allows us to do something called as autobiographical thinking or autobiographical memory. You think about yourself, you create an identity of yourself, try to decide goals that you can achieve in the future, you make plans, you execute things in order to see how good your plans work, which will essentially make you happy. It has a lot of evolutionary advantages, and that is the reason that we have reached this far. As much as I would like to dig deeper into the neuroscience of boredom and all the research paper and the academics around it, this video is about simple hacks and habits that you can apply in order to protect your brain from passively collecting junk information and entertainment, and replace that with normalizing boredom and using it in a creative manner so that you can become less anxious, more healthier and happier. So one of the first hack in my book for using your boredom time creatively is to go back to the good old pen and paper. I know it is very convenient to use your phone for making notes, but the trouble with phone is that as soon as you pick it up, you always expose yourself to a chance of going down the rabbit hole of social media apps, shopping websites, and emails. In today's attention-hungry economy, a lot of engineering and science goes behind grabbing your attention and trying to monetize it. Hence, the good old pen and paper. Doesn't it feel like home once you go back to writing the old-fashioned way? There are no distractions. There is absolutely no way that you can go down any other way and get distracted and not end up doing what you actually wanted to. One thing that I observed is that with the pen and paper, the number of mental hurdles and the obstacles that you have to jump is far less. As far as using an app is concerned, first you have to get your phone. You have to have this ninja focus of going exactly on that particular app and not getting distracted. Once you open the app, you have to navigate through the menu, find where to write, type it down, close it, shut it, save it. Hopefully you have enough battery to retrieve it when you actually need it. As a matter of fact, boredom is a very new concept. I read it somewhere that boredom did not exist before the Industrial Revolution era. Before that, we were too busy growing our own crops, managing our own families, and hence we did not really have time to get bored. It is only after the Industrial Revolution that people got free enough to have thoughts and eventually look for options, and here we are getting bored in spite of having ample number of options at our disposal. Now, I am not a big fan of wasting useful bits of paper, and if you really observe, then there are lots of useful bits of paper that we eventually throw away, especially the ones which are only used on one side and they are not used on the other side. So what I do is that I collect all the bits of paper which are not used on one side and staple them together in order to make a rough throwable burner booklet sort of a thing. So whenever I want to write something, if there's a to-do list, if there is some random temporarily important bit of information that I have to jot down, it goes on this burner list, this burner booklet, which was anyways going waste, and once the job is over, I can throw them away guilt-free. So environment friendly, check. Convenient, check. Cheap, almost practically free, check. And guilt-free, also check. Hang on. Yeah, so I was saying that one smart way of using your smartphone to find out how bored you are is to keep a track of apps that you end up using when you are feeling bored. Yes, I'm talking about a way in which you can use your smartphone so that you end up using your phone even less. So a great way of restricting your phone usage is to use various app timers and app restrictors which shut down the app after a stipulated amount of time. This is mainly meant for all those social media apps, those shopping apps that you end up spending time on and bringing more anxiety and depression into your life. At least in this Android phone and other Android phones, I'm sure there must be a similar setting for Apple phones as well. There is a setting called digital well-being. Now what this digital well-being setting allows you to do is to put app timers on any app that you choose. For example, you can have a timer of 10 minutes set for Instagram, half an hour for YouTube, another half an hour for Facebook, 1 hour for Netflix, and so on and so forth. What it does is that after this 1 hour or the stipulated time is passed, you get a notification to which you cannot manipulate. In fact, it does give you one chance to add some amount of time. It does not give you a second chance. However, I've been using this method for quite a while and the amount of time it has opened up in my day has been unbelievable. Once you start telling people that you use app timers, you get a legit excuse of not replying to them. This was also a problem that I was facing. People would message, they would forward, and then out of courtesy, you'll have to reply them. But once they know that you use app restrictive timers, then they stop bothering you. They probably just imagine that your app time must be over. There are other apps which you can download which can give you a different kind of control over your phone. One of my favorite third-party apps is Focus Timer. Focus Timer is an app which can be downloaded from Android Play Store. It is basically a glorified Pomodoro method app in which you can visually set a timer for a certain amount and then after which it will raise an alarm so that you know that your time is up, you can take a break, come back and start your work again. In addition to that, what it also can do is restrict the notifications which come into your phone during that particular period of time. So if you're in such a job where you don't really need to know everything immediately, like there are no emergencies coming up, you can choose this to silence your phone while the time you are working, and it does make a huge difference. I have personally tried it, and the amount of focus that I have, after some time you forget that there is phone, there is distraction lying around. Half an hour, 1 hour, you are fully focused on the job that you are doing. Only later you realize that, oh, it's been quite long and you have not had a notification or a distraction, is when you start looking for your phone. So have you ever observed that there are some activities which are inherently very soothing, relaxing, and stress busting? For some people, it can be going for a run. For some people, it can be cooking, painting, taking a shower, reading. And for some people, it can be ironing their clothes. And genius almost always strikes when you are engaged in one of those boring, mundane, repetitive activities. The answer lies in something called as predictive coding. Activities which are repetitive, predictable, safe, have a guaranteed reward at the end. They keep our brain busy enough so that we are challenged and at the same time allow our brain to be free enough so that we explore new thoughts and ideas. ये वीडियो बनाते बनाते मेरे at least जूते साफ हो गए. How creative. Instead of reaching out for your phone the next time instinctively, what you can choose to do is engage in a repetitive, mundane, but fruitful, useful activity which allows your mind to wander, allows you to come up with new thoughts and ideas, and helps you in getting bored creatively. Imagine if Isaac Newton would have been scrolling his Instagram instead of being curious about why the apple fell on his head. Or imagine if our caveman forefathers were so enchanted by the reflection in the water that they would not have invented fire. This is the power of boredom. As a personal example, the idea for starting this YouTube channel or the other channel which I run came purely out of getting bored in my daily work and trying to find an escape, a creative outlet, and an excuse to use the camera. So I have this term called morbid boredom which I often use in my daily life, which essentially means that you are so bored to death that your brain literally produces new and entertaining ideas in order to keep itself entertained. Which brings me to my last hack tip, which is actually a mindset that I want to get across. What if we start considering our attention as we consider money? So we generally spend money with much care and caution. We don't just go around throwing our money, and whenever we choose to spend money, it is only after thinking twice that we decide to spend our money. If we apply the same rules, the same logic to our attention, we will very soon realize that we can direct our attention only towards things that are useful, towards things that are pleasurable, things that bring us any benefit, or maybe just pure relaxation and creativity, as we say. However, we can avoid paying attention to things that are pointless, things that have in the past not really given us a very good feeling. Social media is one good example which literally monetizes your attention without us even knowing it. Scrolling Instagram, going through those infinity pools as they are called in one of my favorite books, link in the description, that it is almost like playing a game of roulette, basically gambling your attention away. Sometimes you might win, more often than not you will end up losing, but it is the house that always wins. Hence, if we can normalize boredom, then I think we have kryptonite powers against anxiety, fatigue, depression, and lack of creativity. I would like to close with a very deep quote by a philosopher, writer called Nietzsche. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce the word properly. But Nietzsche, this gentleman said that only people of high caliber and deep wisdom value the importance of boredom. Boredom can be a catalyst for creativity. It can help you decide which tasks, which activities are worth pursuing and which ones are a total waste of time, which in today's day and time is an absolutely necessary life hack. If you'd like to know more about the things that I just spoke, there are a lot of interesting links in the description box. I hope I have not made the most boring video on the topic of boredom. I would love to know your thoughts about it. Like the video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.
What am I afraid of? What the fuck am I afraid of?
You're afraid of me, you're afraid that I won't love you back. You know what? I'm afraid too. No, you're not going. You're not leaving.